Hello my friends, this is Lionel Anderson here with you guys with a brand new YouTube BitChute video, and in today's video we got to talk about what's going on in the world right now. My friends, we are on the verge of another crisis, and that is when it comes to energy, my friends. It's looking like the powers that be are going full forward with their Great Reset agenda, and with that comes energy lockdowns. That's right, my friends, and it's all connected, of course, to this war that we see playing out with Iran. So in today's video, I'm going to show you the agenda that they're putting forward, what to expect with these lockdowns. We're going to look at what's really going on in the world, and we're going to look at how this financial reset comes into play with all this, because everything I've been speaking to you guys about for the past year or so about the financial reset and just the Great Reset in general, it's all happening right now. All part of the plan. Okay, my friends? So let's just get right into it. Just going to encourage you guys to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. As I say, subscribe to survive. And also smash the like button as well. It helps me out with the algorithms because I am shadow banned. Alright, my friends, let's get into it. So, like I said, this is all part of the script, okay, my friends? Remember that Illuminati card game? Yeah, take a look at that card. The game was made in the 90s, and it's predicted so many world events. And there you go, energy lockdowns, as you could see. Energy crisis. We're in it now, my friends. So what's been going on with Iran, with the Strait of Hormuz closed down, the oil, it's really devastating at the end of the day. Okay, my friends? You know, they're saying even if the war was declared over today, all right, even if that was the case, it wouldn't even matter. The damage has already been done. I've heard many experts who've been studying this situation that the damage has already been done to the markets, and it's going to take months, if not years, for the world to recover from this. And that's if it were to end tomorrow. It's not going to end tomorrow, okay? Trump just came out last night addressing the world on April Fool's Day, April 1st, to address the world on the war, which, yes, if you believe a word Trump says, you're a fool. That's why they did it, right? Because he's just been lying nonstop about this entire situation. Oh, we're winning, this and that, making it seem like in the next 2 to 3 weeks it's going to be over because they're going to blow Iran to smithereens, bring them back to the Stone Age, and then it's going to be over. Yeah, you really believe that? No, that's not going to happen, my friends. This is just going to escalate the situation even further, and we know there is an agenda for cyber attacks, right, my friends? And according to that movie, Leave This World Behind, made by the Obamas on Netflix, about cyber attacks, it comes from, you guessed it, Iran. Predictive programming. All this is, okay? And I wouldn't be surprised if it's likely an inside job, probably a false flag, because these things usually are. But obviously, all this is being done to collapse the economy, which it most certainly is worldwide, and to also bring us into an energy crisis, because the energy crisis causes the inflation to go up in all goods, not just gas prices, but everything, because, well, to ship things, everything requires gas. So all the prices have to go up because it's going to get more expensive to ship things. But not just that, many things are going to be affected that we're going to be looking at in today's video. Okay? And what they want to do is make it so hard for the people worldwide, everyone's going to be affected by this, make it so hard on the people to the point they'll come in with the solution, okay? Because people are going to be begging for help, because people are going to be starving to death, my friends. People are going to be homeless. It's going to be horrible. You think it's bad right now as it is? It's going to get 10 times worse than it is right now. What we're going through is going to be worse than what we went through in 2020, 2021. Okay? And we see the damage that has done. All right? People are going to be begging for a solution. Well, the powers that be worldwide have the solution. Okay? And of course, that is the digital system. Everything's ready to go behind the scenes. They've been setting it all up. Okay? Everything's in place. We're about to move from the testing phase into the real time. Okay? That's what this is all about. And of course, that will come along with CBDCs, central bank, digital currencies, stable coins, and universal basic income. That will be the solution. They're going to need help from the government. And universal basic income will carry on that role. Okay? So that's what all this is going to, and of course it's going to lead us into a dystopian NWO nightmare. Obviously, it's all about control and all that, and surveillance. Obviously, we know that's what's going on, but we will speak about some solutions later in today's video. But before we get to that, I just want to lay out, what's all happening with the whole situation. But I want to show you now exactly what to expect with these energy lockdowns. Okay, what's going to be implemented in the very near future? Because my friends, it's already being announced all over the world about the energy lockdowns. Somebody in Russia, within the Russian government, said that energy lockdowns will be coming to Europe. That just came up. Brussels in Europe is talking about it. Many in Europe are speaking about putting these energy lockdowns into place. Kurt Starmer just had an address yesterday speaking about how this is going to be a long-term situation, pretty much insinuating they're going to have to do energy lockdowns. Australia, one of the worst hit countries, is already talking about the energy lockdowns that they're going to need to start putting into place. Okay? So it's happening. Okay? All over Asia, it's happening. And United States and Canada, okay, here in North America, it's going to make it here too. And prices all over are going to get insanely high in the coming months. Okay, my friends? So let's take a look at what this energy lockdown involves. We got none other than Mr. David Icke to show us what they're telling us is going to have to be implemented. Take a look.
Let's have a look at this, the consequences of what's going on. And they are potentially enormous. They're already affecting many people already. And it relates, of course, to this Strait of Hormuz closure, which is basically stopping the flow of oil to the world in vast, vast amounts. So now this story, see if you recognize, well, when I come to the list, see if you recognize anything. Something that happened like just a few years ago, say about 2020, 2021, about that time. Anyway, this is the story. New IEA report highlights options to ease oil price pressures on consumers in response to Middle East supply disruptions. The International Energy Agency today set out a range of demand-side actions that governments, businesses, and households can take to alleviate the economic impacts on consumers of the disruptions to oil markets stemming from the war in the Middle East. The conflict has triggered the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Cheers, Don. Nice one, mate. With shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, which normally carries around 20% of global oil consumption, reduced to a trickle. Around 20 million barrels per day of crude oil and oil products typically transit the strait. The loss of these flows has tightened markets significantly, pushing crude oil prices above $100 per barrel and driving even sharper increases in refined products such as diesel, jet fuel, and liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG. All right, let's just have a look then at what the International Energy Agency says we could do, governments could do. Like I say, see if this reminds you of anything. 1, work from home where possible. Displaces oil use from commuting, particularly where jobs are suitable for remote work. 2, reduce highway speed limits by at least 10 kilometers an hour. Lower speeds reduce fuel use for passenger cars, vans, and trucks. 3, encourage public transport. A shift from private cars to buses and trains can quickly reduce oil demand. 4, alternate private car access to roads in large cities on different days. Number plate rotation schemes can reduce congestion and fuel-intensive driving. Oh, what a coincidence! Major cities have been putting up number plate cameras. They've been doing it, they say, for another reason, to police another tyranny, but they're there. We might as well use them for this now. Increase car sharing and adopt efficient driving practices. 6, efficient driving for road commercial vehicles and delivery of goods. Divert liquid petroleum gas use from transport. Shifting biofuel and converted vehicles from LPG to gasoline can preserve LPG for cooking and other essential needs. 8, avoid air travel where alternative options exist. Reducing business flights can quickly ease pressure on jet fuel markets. Of course, the suppression of movement and travel is absolutely on this cult agenda wish list. Number 9, where possible, switch to other modern cooking solutions. Encouraging electric cooking and other modern options can reduce reliance on LPG. And 10, leverage flexibility with petrochemical feedstocks and implement short-term efficiency and maintenance measures. Industry can help free up LPG for essential uses while reducing oil consumption through quick operational improvements. So when you look at a society, the way it functions is overwhelmingly, its whole foundation is on energy use, energy supply. You reduce the energy supply, everything is affected. Everything's affected in price because everything needs moving, but everything's also affected in multiple ways because of what oil is used for, not just vehicle fuel. So some countries are already starting to run short of fuel and energy.
And there you guys have it. All right. So these things are already starting to be put in motion in many countries, and soon it will be worldwide. Because like we said earlier in the beginning, even if things ended tomorrow, the damage has been done, and it'll take months, if not years. Okay, but it's not ending tomorrow. It's just going to get worse, and we know eventually the cyber stuff's going to happen, which is going to make it even worse. Okay, they need people desperate and on their knees begging because they know if they weren't desperate, then nobody would want the digital system. People like the cash. They don't want to transfer over. So they literally got to destroy the old system, make your fiat currency worthless. Okay, your cash will be worth zero, and make you desperate because you'll be starving, facing homelessness. Well then, when they roll that out, There will be a compliance, okay? I've always said from the beginning, what's going on, or what's coming, which is now here, is not going to be something that you could just say, I'm not going to comply with. Because many people say, I'm not going to comply, right? Well, I'm sorry. What's going on here, you're not going to have a choice. And I told you that over a year ago. Alright? Your paper money in the very near future will be worthless. This will be your only option. It's either that or you'll starve to death and be homeless. Okay? You're seeing it play out now. And all this, the war, the Strait of Hormuz being closed down, okay? All this is what's leading us to that. Okay? But it's not just the oil crisis, but it's also the fertilizer crisis, my friends, which is connected to the oil crisis and the Strait of Hormuz being shut down. That's right. So fertilizer, we need fertilizer to grow food. Isn't that right, my friends? Well, guess what is happening now with that situation? Since the Strait of Hormuz is closed down, many countries worldwide are not getting their fertilizer in time for growing season, which is right now. Which means we're going to have low crop yields throughout the world this year. Okay, so take a look.
Why are fertilizers more important than oil right now? It's because many aren't getting through the Strait of Hormuz, putting global food security at risk. That's because together Iran, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE and Bahrain ship out more than 1/3 of global urea and nearly 1/4 of ammonia, key fertilizer ingredients that contribute to the growth of roughly half of the world's food. Iran alone produces 10% of the global urea supply. Experts warn of a fertilizer shock. Timing couldn't be worse. The blockage comes at a critical time for farmers across the northern hemisphere who are preparing to sow crops in spring, the moment they need fertilizer most. In the US, tariffs have already pushed food prices higher. India is even more exposed because it buys around 40% of its urea and phosphate fertilizers from the Middle East. Now the world will look for other suppliers. The most obvious alternative is China. But China tightened fertilizer exports last year to protect its own farmers, leaving the world with fewer options. And China, too, can't produce as much fertilizer as it typically does, because much of the sulfur it needs to make fertilizer comes from countries west of the Strait of Hormuz. Markets are already signaling stress of a future fertilizer shock. Benchmark urea prices in Egypt jumped from $485 to $665 per ton in a single week, a 37% spike. The impact is clear. When fertilizer becomes this expensive, many farmers simply buy less. Less fertilizer means smaller harvests, and smaller harvests mean higher food prices.
There you guys have it. All right. So, as you could see, we've been talking lots about, biblical prophecies because, the Bible is the holy scriptures. The Bible is predictive programming, laying out the script of obviously these elites who are Zionists are bringing about the prophecies that they created in their book. That's right, the Bible is a book written by the elites with self-fulfilling prophecies. Okay, so they bring out these things that they've planned a long time ago. The ultimate predictive programming book. Okay, and what is the third seal? We've already established that we're in the second seal right now, which is war to take peace from the earth. We see that's happening, right? First seal was what happened in 2020. Well, in 2028, I've been telling you guys that we're going to be looking at famine. That's what the third seal was, famine. And now we see it perfectly being set up for that. Because with these energy lockdowns in place, the Strait of Hormuz being shut down, fertilizer not getting to the world, okay, to many places, this is going to bring about famine. Okay, certain places will have straight up famine because of this in the coming years. Okay, around 2028, I think, is when it's going to get really bad, to 2030. Okay, in that period. Some places in the world won't be as affected, okay, because in even the Bible and the prophecy, it says 1/3 of the world, right? But you could guarantee you the parts of the world that aren't affected by complete famine will be affected by extreme hyperinflation. okay, of your food prices. It's going to be so unbelievable. You'll be wishing the prices were where they are right now as we speak, which many people cannot get by the way it is right now. But in other places in the world, okay, in poor countries, third world countries, India, maybe parts of Africa, okay, you're going to see famine, straight up famine. People starving to death. All right? Because of this. And we see it's all playing out, my friends. So, this is the great reset though, right? The great matrix reset, the great financial reset we've been talking about. There are solutions. That's right. We got to get to the solutions now. All right? So, one of the most important things that you can do, it's pretty obvious, is to start stocking up on food and water now. Stocking up on anything that you need right now. Because if you're going to wait, well, in the coming months, it's going to be so damn expensive for everything. So anything you need, start getting it right frigging now. Okay? Because the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be, and you won't be able to get as much of the stuff as you want because you're not going to be able to afford it. Okay? So I got to do a shout out to our sponsors. Okay? Heaven's Harvest, my friends. These food buckets. They got organic kits, but they also got kits that are not organic as well, that are cheaper. But getting food buckets, which you could get yourself a week's supply, month's supply, okay? It's probably a good idea. Good to have just in case, right? Also, buying canned goods, all that kind of stuff is important too. But on Heaven's Harvest, they also got water filtration. That'll be huge. Okay, we need to have something to filter our water, especially if the grid goes down. All right. So link to Heaven's Harvest down below. There's a coupon code there in the description as well. And of course, if you choose to stock up on that, it helps me out with my channel and with what I do. Okay, if you use my link. But this is the time, my friends. If you've been delaying prepping, which I hope not, I've been telling you guys to prep for a long time now. But if you've been delaying and pushing it off, it's not good because now we're here. And even if the grid doesn't go completely down right away, things are going to get really expensive. So that's why it's good to stock up on stuff while you still can. Okay? So that's obvious stuff, is to get prepared with the food, the water, and other stuff that you may need in the future. Okay? Brainstorm what you're going to need, not just for survival in an emergency situation, but anything. Like I was watching a video, they're saying like if you need water filters or furnace filters or stuff like that, all this stuff is going to get insanely expensive. So think of anything, like even plastics. Plastics all around the world, we get our plastics from many different places. That whole industry is being affected by this oil stuff. Plastic is in everything, my friends. So anything with plastic, it's going to get more expensive. And plastic isn't in everything. So just do the math. Everything's going to get more expensive. So to survive through this, so you don't have to be a slave to universal basic income and the digital ID, social credit score, CBDC system, okay, which is programmable money. I've been telling you guys this whole time to pivot now into the new financial system that it's all going to be running on, which is all going into motion as we speak, okay? And that is into cryptocurrencies, not financial advice, but cryptocurrencies, especially XRP, but also XLM, HBAR, and all the ISO 222 tokens, okay? I've been telling you guys, these are going to be huge. This is what the new financial system is going to be running on. And like I said, this whole time, while all this chaos is going on, at the exact same time, they're passing law in the United States of America and around the world to transfer over to this new system. and it's all being regulated so the big institutions could come in. So April 1st, we had a lot of stuff go on. I believe the SEC just recently made an announcement talking about all these different digital assets such as XRP, but there's other ones listed as well, XLM, HBAR, Ethereum, Bitcoin, all being officially commodities and pretty much giving the green light for institutions and whatnot to start using them. And April 1st, the banks are now able to use these cryptos as well, okay, showing that we're moving from the testing phase into, the actual real life use, the utility, okay? It's going to start getting used. And also the Clarity Act, it's been the only thing kind of slowing us down from cryptos really taking off. It's about to get passed, okay? They're saying very good chance in April, at the very latest May. It's all about to get passed, and once that happens, watch out, my friends. Okay? We're finally going to see price appreciation on all these tokens. All right? On top of that, the Bank of England, on April 1st as well, I believe, or sometime in April, are going to be switching to blockchain as well with these technologies. Okay? So we're going to see real world use. We're also seeing with the Strait of Hormuz being shut down, Japan, their economy going to crap, right? With the inflation and all that, they're being really affected by this. They depend on all their oil needs from Iran. And now this is affecting them, and they have their reverse carry trade situation going on there. So once the reverse carry trade unwinds, okay, it's going to be a big crisis. But the way they fix it was with XRP. And of course, the head of their Bank of Japan owns 10% of Ripple, which is the parent company pretty much of XRP. As soon as that happens, which could be any day now, we're going to see them tokenize their stock market and switch over to XRP and see trillions possibly come on chain, or billions. We'll see how much. And you could see XRP's price shoot up from what, $1.34 right now up to hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands. By 2030, I have no doubt in my mind XRP will be at 10,000 or more a coin. So for those who pivoted now, instead of waiting, not preparing, thinking that they're just not going to comply and this is all going to go away, we've spoke about this before. They will be the losers in this situation, unfortunately. And they'll be forced onto the Universal Basic Income CBDC stablecoin system because there are no other options. There will be no other options, my friends. But for those who pivoted, you won't be dependent on Universal Basic Income. You will be very wealthy, okay? You'll be very comfortable, we should say. You won't have to worry about money or food or anything like that. You won't have to be, oh my goodness, I can't afford to buy this steak. I can't afford to buy this or that. Oh, I could only get this from this little universal basic income. I have to eat this crappy food filled with poisons and GMOs and whatnot. No, you could get the best quality food. Doesn't matter how expensive it is. You could relocate, get yourself a nice house out of the big cities where, crap is going to hit the fan. You could help your loved ones, your family, your friends. You could help strangers even. Okay? This is not going to be a worry for you. And you don't have to worry about them turning off your money because guess what? If you hold your XRP or your digital assets in a cold wallet, which is your own wallet, well, guess what? They can't just turn it off. That's not the way the technology works like with that. They could turn off your stablecoin CBDC. Absolutely they can, but they can't turn that off. So look, things aren't going to be perfect. We're entering a world, a different world, okay? Where yes, there's going to be less freedom. Yes, there's going to be less privacy. We're already in that world. You're already being tracked. You're already being traced. You already have a digital ID, okay? Your phone is tracking everywhere you go. There's cameras all over the place, every street light. Facial recognition is already out there. scanning your face, whether you like it or not. You don't even know it. Okay, we're just moving into that world, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's the sad thing. It's already here. Nobody did anything, and nobody even knows about it. People aren't even aware of how bad it already is. Palantir already has a database on you. Okay? Like I said, it's not going to be something that a few people just, oh, I don't comply, can change. So that's why you need to learn how to adapt and adjust to the new system and to survive within it, just like how we had to do in the old order. Okay? And you have a unique opportunity right now. Everything we spoke about for the past year, it's all happening right now. All that needs to happen now is the price appreciation. And as we go through this, okay, as this agenda proceeds and they destroy the old system, which is happening in real time right now, they're going to start switching over to the digital system. And the price is going to start shooting up. So, yeah, it's not going to be perfect. We're just moving into a society that's going to be less freedom, more control. It is the age of Aquarius we're entering into, which Saturn rules over, okay, which is associated with AI and less privacy and all that kind of stuff. That's all associated with Saturn, the Aquarian age, okay? But at least you're not going to be dependent on universal basic income. At least you'll have your own money source. And you won't have to take all the things they want you to get, right? Just so you could get your universal basic income. Nah. At least you'll be able to afford to eat good food. At least you'll be able to afford to travel if you want and buy your carbon credits or whatever. Because there'll be a whole carbon credit system, you know? And history shows throughout famines, okay, whenever there's been famines and all this kind of crap, which there's been a lot throughout history, the wealthy, the people who had the money, always did the best. The people who did not have money, the people who were poor and, dependent on the state, the government, these are the people who usually perished and starved to death first, unfortunately. So it's up to you to decide. Do you want to be part of the 99% who will, remain slaves? Or do you want to have a chance at doing better for yourself and your family, finding a way to hack the matrix, okay? To at least have more freedom and to be able to be comfortable. And then, the most important thing is to work on your spirituality, because I'm sure you want to get the heck out of this matrix, okay? Many people hate it here, and I don't blame them. This is a hell realm. The only way out is through ascension, and you gotta evolve spiritually to do that. But it'll be very hard when you're in fight or flight survival mode, just trying to get your next meal, worrying about being homeless or maybe being homeless throughout all this, and famine. Yeah, it's kind of hard to work on your spirituality then, right? But if you have a nice place, out of the big cities, don't have to worry about food or water, out of the chaos, then you could just observe and really work on defeating the ego and raising the frequency through love and reaching a state of enlightenment. It'll be much easier, my friends. So not financial advice, but really everything. The whole system is about to crash. Precious metals as well. You want to get into precious metals. Thousands of years now, gold, silver, all these metals have always been at the top throughout all of them of things you should have that don't lose value, like worthless paper, fiat, inflationary currencies. That and digital currencies, those people I truly believe will do much better than the people who are on, the state government currencies, the CBDCs is what I'm trying to say, okay? So like I said, everything we've been talking about, all happening in real time. And like I told you guys before, this problem isn't going away like Mr. Trump wants you to think. He's been so full of it this entire time, my friends. Totally manipulating the markets. One day he's threatening to blow them to smithereens. The next day he's saying, oh, we have ceasefires, we got peace talks, when there's no evidence of that. Just yesterday he was saying, oh, Iran wants a ceasefire. And a couple hours later, Iran official spokespeople came out and said, no, we are not speaking to Trump, and we said nothing about a ceasefire. And then they threatened to do really big strikes against United States companies who are in the Gulf area. So I want to show you a video by Dabu77 who talks about that, and I believe this is going to be a lead up to what we're going to see with the cyber agenda. You'll see a lot of these companies are tech companies and stuff like that. So if they get hit, who knows? Maybe some of them will go down. So we'll see. Okay, it's all leading up to it, though. Take a look.
This is Dabu7. We have yet another threat warning from Iran today, and this time they're going big. They're aiming at infrastructure, and they are warning that big tech giants of the West are going to be targeted. U.S. tech firms in the UAE, the Gulf, anywhere will be targets from here on out. So this is a bit of a game changer as Donald Trump keeps saying they want peace. They're talking peace. Iran returns and says, no, we're not. He's lying. So now Iran has listed 18 companies they're going to target beginning today, right now, including Microsoft, Google, Apple, Meta, Oracle, Intel, HP, IBM, Cisco, Dell, Palantir, Nvidia, Tesla, JP Morgan, which is a bank, GE, and Boeing, as well as the UAE's G42 Inspire Solutions. All these places targeted. They say you should expect destruction. They're going to destroy their respective units in exchange for every terror attack in Iran. That started at 8 p.m. today, Tehran time, for April 1st. They're warning employees to leave the workplace. They're calling on these companies to hollow out any of the buildings to get their people out because they're going to get hit. So this is a huge twist to Donald Trump trying to take to social media, acting like this whole thing's over. Many say that he's in a very tough position here with no off-ramp and no solution, and with allies backing down, where he very well may threaten to back out of the whole thing, saying we won, and leave the allies to deal with the whole thing themselves and torch NATO in the process. We'll have to see what his big announcement is tonight at 9 p.m., but one thing's for sure. They're opening up the battlefield larger and larger every day, and now U.S. tech companies are targeted full scale. I'll leave links. Be vigilant out there. Join me for the live show going live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Dabu77. Hope to see you there. Much love.
There you go. So if Trump is coming out saying we're in peace talks, remember I told you guys, when they say peace, prepare for war. Okay? Which, that's exactly what you saw. He came out tonight, oh yeah, it's going to end in 2 or 3 weeks after we freaking bring them back to the Stone Age. Threatening to take out their power grid and stuff, which, guess what, is a war crime and is going to affect the entire civilian population. I thought this was about saving the Iranian people from this horrible regime, but yet you're going to go after their power, which is going to cause widespread chaos, lots of death of civilians, not just army people, but civilians. I thought you cared about the civilians, Trump, but you're just going to destroy their entire country, take them back to the Stone Age? Which millions will die probably by that? Oh yeah, all these people, oh yeah, the poor Iranian women. You try and say you're against this war and the mega cult will be like, so you support the women being subjected to this evil regime and the poor people? If you cared about the poor people, you wouldn't support this war because civilians are dying. Way more than if it was just this horrible regime. Which, don't get me wrong, the regime is horrible. But still, two wrongs don't make a right, and all that's happening is making the situation a million times worse for the people, not just those people in Iran, but the people of the entire world. And yourselves. And it's very possible your sons, your children are going to get drafted and go off and die. How do you like that, Mega or MAGA? Would you support your children going off to war once Trump comes out and reinstates the draft, which will happen? Will you gladly let your children go off and die? You probably will because you're in a cult. And if you look throughout history, many of these horrible death cults, parents always would send their children to go die. Look at Baal, right? People literally threw their babies to get incinerated in the oven. To Baal, Moloch, all that. Child sacrifice was huge. This is just modern day child sacrifice. So I'm sure a lot of people in MAGA would gladly send their children off to die for their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. But maybe some will have a little common sense and finally realize, what's happening maybe isn't so good. But by then, guess what? Too late. Too bad you gave your vote away, you consented, you defended a terrorist organization, which is government. And not to mention that, just think about all the people worldwide who are going to die now from starvation, famine, because of the Strait of Hormuz. And Trump, it's Iran's fault, it's Iran's fault. You can blame Iran. Let's just shift the blame to Iran. And it's true, they did shut down the Strait of Hormuz, but they wouldn't have to if an unnecessary war didn't start. Totally unnecessary. Okay, this didn't have to happen. But end of the day, guess what? They're all buddies behind the scenes. This is all orchestrated. It's all a big show. It's all a big script. It's all a big Zionist agenda. We know that, okay? So don't get too involved in, Trump this, Iran that. This is a Saturn death cult playing out their end times prophecies, which just includes most of the world getting exterminated. Let's just face the fact. A massive depopulation agenda, reptilian harvest, we're heading into a pole shift reset. So all these things were all foretold to happen because this was the agenda. But it's just the nerve of some people to support it. That's what gets to me, how people could actually throw their support behind what's happening because they care about the poor people in Iran. Meanwhile, they don't give two craps about the people of Iran because this is making things a million times worse for the people of Iran if Trump goes through with what he says he's going to do. And what about the people of the world who are now going to go through famine? And how about yourself? You're going to be struggling. You're going to be on your CBDC, universal basic income. It's going to be your downfall too, cult members. You don't think it could happen? It's already happening. Okay, I'm just ranting now, my friends, but it's frustrating when you've been warning people of this for so long, and then we get to this point where we are now, and people are still supporting it and still can't see what's truly going on, and they believe every little bit of propaganda that their government tells them. Say, Trump said it, so it must be true. That's just dumb as saying, George W. Bush said it, so it must be true. Yeah, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Iran has nuclear weapons. Like, people, you guys are sheep. You're just sheep. That's all I could say. The government said it, so it must be true. But Trump is different. Give me a break. Anyways, wake up, people. That's all I gotta say. At the very least, if you want to continue being in your cult and worshiping government, at the very least, stock up on food and water. Make the switch over. That's all I could say. Not financial advice, but get prepared, whether you believe it or not, because if you don't, you're going to learn the hard way. You can't trust the government. Alright? That's pretty much all I got for today's video. Okay? Thanks for listening to me rant, my friends. If you enjoyed it, of course, hit the subscribe button and feel free to become a channel member here on YouTube. Exclusive content you don't get anywhere else. Alright? The link is down below in the description. There's also a link to Patreon, exclusive content there. Also, buy me a coffee if you wish to support that way. I always send free content to your email as a thank you there. So many ways to support. We got the food buckets. And what means the most to Lionel, though, is just hitting that like button. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. And try and stay positive, my friends. Those of you who've prepared don't have too much to worry about. If you haven't been preparing, then I would start right about now because things are about to get even worse, unfortunately. But raise the frequency and try and stay out of fear, because that's what they want. So at the very least, don't give that to them, and prepare. That's it, Lionel signing off. Love you guys.